Hello everybody, welcome to the home of the 777. Today's video is going to cover the new PMDG 777-300ER for Microsoft Flight Simulator, so grab a biscuit and we'll see the other side of the intro. So, a very warm welcome to all of you tuning in wherever you are in the world. If you're new to the channel, I'd love it if you choose to hit that subscribe button, click the notification bell so you don't miss any content, and don't forget folks, give us a little like as well. Here she is, here on stand, looking A, huge, but B, quite majestic as well. It's a remarkable aeroplane. It's taken me on many great holidays in real life, and operated on this when I was cabin crew years ago as well. Really loved it. Fantastic aeroplane, workhorse of the long haul world within aviation, and remarkably powerful GE90 engines as well. It's been in development now for quite some time. PMDG naturally don't want to just pump out the products, they want to get it right, and they've spent a lot of time focusing on improving little areas here and there prior to its release, which is due this coming week, which everybody's obviously incredibly excited about. It's going to be Flight Sim's biggest release, I think, probably in the history of Flight Sim as well now. So everybody's super excited, including myself, and we'll be celebrating with a whole week of content. They've done some spectacular work on the externals, the interior, the systems. Everything is simulated as you would expect with a PMDG aeroplane as well. And over the 2 flights that I've done so far with it, faffing about and exploring, I've been wholly impressed with this. It is utterly awesome. Things like brake wear, brake failure, tyre wear, all of that kind of stuff, all simulated. You can choose those random service-based failures and all that sort of stuff as well that we've been enjoying in the 737 for a little while now. Those engines are huge. The cabin, really nicely created here as well. I think probably based on American or United aircraft, looking at the configuration in business class, not sure, but really nice detail in here. And it's good to see actually a lot of attention to detail in the cabin area. And there's some features in here that we'll discuss shortly, which are pretty cool actually, and really quite impressive. In the business end, flight deck, really spectacular, very nice. The seats, the carpet, all of it basically looking pretty remarkable. I'm sure you guys would agree. There's a lot of really impressive features, little bits of attention to detail like the textures on those rotary knobs there and the dials. Looking really good. So I'm very much looking forward to flying this around and showing you guys. And we've also got ground operations now, so this is something they've shown on the forums a few times. We can select different ground connections, we can remove the chocks and all the rest of it, request the jetway, and we can also release all the ground equipment that we saw scattered around the aeroplane. I'm going to release all of those now, make sure everything's closed. You can see things in operation are highlighted in yellow because those doors are just now closing. And with all of the doors closed, we should then be able to arm the doors. Automated ground ops is a new feature, so we can turn on to short, long turnarounds, custom turnarounds, so you can just turn it off, and within this it can uplift your fuel as required as well. And your good old ground maintenance now from the FMS is now inside this, so we can have a look at a few little areas, and by hovering over certain things we can have a look at the hydraulic quantities, fire bottles, and it will highlight roughly where they are on the aeroplane, which also helps you learn where things are in the jet. You can see there engine 2's got some low hydraulics, and with all of the doors now closed, we've armed those doors, and we can see them green in the door management page there showing their status is armed. And if we want to disarm them all, we can just press that one button at the top right, which is pretty swish. And the performance tool, which is something we've been used to now for a little while. We can select the relevant runway, and we'll get those performance calculations displayed there as well. You can load your flight plan in nice and quick like that in the FMS, and you can load your payload and fuel nice and fast like that as well. And it does support second route as well for standby or alternate routes, and we've got that data link as well, so we can communicate with ATC if we want to. One of the things that is included is a selection of checklists. So on the right hand side by the first officer, we've got a different set of options here. A little panel that allows you to select lower center, lower inboard, right inboard, engine status pages, and all of the various different functions in the aircraft, including at the bottom checklist and COM. So COM will open up your ACARS related stuff, checklist will open up your electronic checklist, and you can just simply click and it will kind of go through your different systems, and you can override them as well if you wish. If you want, you can go to the before starts, and we can check all of these, and we can just work through them. Now, what's worth kind of mentioning at this point is if you get to your before takeoff checks and you haven't completed all of those checklist items up to that point, you will get a master caution saying checklist incomplete. Borrowed a tug from United. It's going to disconnect. We're going to start the engines. That sounds so good. From the cabin. Get the park brake off. We'll start rolling. Look at that. So I'll just do a couple of very small turns and you'll be able to see the nose wheel just rotate ever so slightly. It's obviously steered by a tiller on the ground, which I've got automatically linked to my rudder pedals anyway. So it's something to bear in mind. You might have a separate control for it. This is a very long aeroplane as well, so taxiing isn't like, you know, the same kind of methodology that we would on a 737. This is a superbly long aeroplane, so when we commit to a turn at the end here, we're going to want that nose wheel to come over the yellow line, because we're going to want to keep those main wheels between the yellow line, but at the same time being cautious that we don't overrun with the nose wheel and go off the edge of the taxiway. It's a bit of a fine balance with such a long jet. Accelerating really rapidly. D1 at 145. Here we go.
V1.
Auto brake max. Decel hard. Look at that. Instant reaction from the jet. So after that, it almost shows you can punish the brakes and punish the jet, which is standing under the aeroplane at the moment, and the brakes aren't going to overheat that quickly. In fact, we've got those brake wear indicators and all that kind of stuff inside of the tyres that are part of your pre-flight that you want to check throughout as well, and eventually you're going to see them wear. And if we also do maybe 6-7 of these rejected takeoffs under immense braking pressure, sure, probably going to get the glow. When you do install the aircraft, it's got a whole load of included liveries via the PMDG Operations Centre. You can see them all here, including Bravo Charlie from British Airways, some American Airlines, KLM, Emirates liveries, Korean Air, Qatar, and Turkish and United. So lots to choose from, and I'm sure the livery creators are going to go super crazy with this on release. There's going to be pretty much everything under the sun. We're also going to get a Osprey Airways paint scheme sorted out for you guys, because I know a lot of you are looking to see that. Right, back on live weather, and we're off down to San Francisco now. A little ferry flight in this United livery. We're doing the automated turnaround as we speak. So we've got fuel being uplifted, we've got boarding, cargo, all of that kind of stuff getting put onto the aeroplane. Flight time for this, about 1 hour 50. And it should be quite a nice little route down towards the new Flightbeam Studios San Fran. So what we're going to do is spend the next few minutes getting the aeroplane ready for that flight. It's worth pointing out that we did that rejected takeoff a second ago. That would have saved the brake status and the tyre status to that livery. Now we've changed livery, we've effectively got a fresh jet until we start to use it and cause wear and tear on this one. And of course, when we're doing this, we want to move the tablet from its dock. A couple of different locations. We can put it on a suction mount, we can stow it as well down here so it's out the way. We can click back there to put it back, or we can click the Boeing 777 logo and put it right next to the FMS to help with our flight plan. We briefly touched upon this earlier on in the PMDG livery. Because we're using auto ops, auto ground ops, we can't go ahead and set fuel, set payload using the FMS like we briefly whisked through earlier, but we can click request the route and add the Simbrief flight plan. Now if you want to then go, you know what, I want to just get rid of the auto ground ops, you can turn it all off, go back to your EFB, and then you can set Simbrief payload, which will then give you that pop-up Simbrief payload set, and set fuel, which will then automatically uplift your fuel to what you want it to be, and all of the figures are there just above, and then you can select route and it will begin to load that route from Simbrief into your FMS, and it'll ask you to load it first. So it's currently sending the route, it'll then ask you to load it, then activate, then execute. There we go. We get the little chime. And it's already getting the uplinks for wind and descent profiles ready as well, which is quite cool. And that Route 1 uplink is now loading. So, there we go. Activate. We can click next page, we can have a little look through the route to make sure we're happy with it. And if we are, we hit execute. On the perf init page, we can accept the data from that import. I'm using a US aircraft, but yeah, they would ordinarily use pounds. I'm using kilograms because I prefer using kilograms and it requires less brain power for me. We use flat 15 for takeoff today because the runway is only 2,700 meters long, and 34 left is going to be the runway in use here. So all of this very, very similar to that of the Dreamliner, and almost kind of very similar to the FMS in the 737-800 as well, actually. So there's a lot of similarities that do help you just dive in and kind of crack on with your pre-flight setup, which is really nice. Much like the 787, you want to set your V2 speed here, which is 146, not V2 plus 10. The aircraft will automatically target that anyway. Alright, so let's start her up for the flight. From the cabin, we'll set flat 15. We'll do some control checks. So, ready to go. Quick review of the checklists and anti-ISIS checks. We want to do a quick warning recall for any warnings. So we've done the flight controls, ground equipment's clear. Laps are set 15 for the before takeoff checks. And then we'll get ready for the after takeoff checks. Our brakes off. And a little bit of power to get us rolling again. As we mentioned before, we want to bring that nose line or nose wheel over the line and then begin to turn, because we don't want to cut that corner too much. A little chime there's from the cabin crew. We've got the cabin secure there, cabin ready. And with that, we know the cabin's secure for takeoff. For those of you who like to fly as the FO, you've got a tab it on that side as well. I'm going to stow it down in the little cubby hole down there because we don't need it. And we've also got blinds, which are rather nifty. Nice big tight turn. Don't want to cut the corner and end up on the grass, so we're coming nice and wide. And then rolling our tiller out nice and smooth towards the end. So taxiing's quite easy with this. You'll find it fairly easy to get used to, albeit after a couple of flights perhaps, just that length of the aeroplane. The other thing to bear in mind, tail strikes. This is a mighty long aircraft. It does try to help you though, so the rear landing gear, for example, stays in that kind of fixed position to try and prevent that landing gear rotation that you get on some other aircraft, which will then bring the tail closer on the rotation. We've got that tail skid fitted to this model as well. The aeroplane itself has got a couple of other protections in for tail strike protection, so as you pitch further back on the elevator, when it thinks it's going to end up in some sort of pitch input that's going to incur a tail strike, the real aeroplane would get heavier and heavier as you pitch the stick backwards to, again, try and help prevent the tail strike. For those of you who like to click things, it's a good place to go and click stuff. That little pen there. I just realised we had flap set to 15. It was flat set to 20 instead of 15, so I've corrected that now and gone to flap 15. Just reviewing the before takeoff checklist. Realised that was wrong. Now you can see on the ground We've got the pylons just wiggling away, bouncing away there. Which is a nice little feature as well that they've included. Now we won't see it on this flight. Those of you who like to fly long haul routes, you've got dynamic cabin lighting in the back as well. So as we're flying along throughout the journey, what you would get is a transition of cabin ambience linked basically in tandem with the service that you might have. So after takeoff, in-flight meal, a sleep period as well where they turn the lights down, and then prior to landing the lights come back up for the second service. All that is simulated in the back behind the door. So prior to takeoff, what I've done is I've paused or I've turned down the daytime hours just to show you how good these emissives are on the aircraft. Incredibly bright. Strobes are reflecting off the ground, front and rear on the tail. Logo's looking really good. We've got the wing lights on as well, illuminating that leading edge of the wing as well, which is rather cool. So again, all of that very nicely done. Anyway, without further ado, we're going to set about 40% thrust. Just going to hold it on the brakes because this is a short runway. What is about there? The roar from inside the flight deck sounds great. And in the cabin, we'll go brakes off, toga, listen to the spool up of those GE90s, and then we'll jump back into the flight deck to manage the departure. So accelerating through 80 knots, 100, power set, engine's good. Here we go.
V1.
Rotate, V2, gently back, airborne. Following the flight director with a smooth rotation, positive rate, gear up. There's those gear animations there. Fantastic. I'm going to set autopilot on with a left turn through flat retraction then. Set 5. And we'll work round on ourselves. Yeah, amazing. Really, really nice feel on departure. If you get the takeoff calculations set nice, that rotation is really quite smooth. And you end up finding that because of the length and not wanting to tail strike, you rotate that little bit more carefully. And it kind of just gently scoops itself into the air really nicely. So yeah, mighty impressive aeroplane, very, very nicely detailed. The system depth is bang on, and it's as we would expect from the folks at PMDG. The sounds are really nice, the emissives are great, and it's easy to kind of start to get familiar with as well without too much difficulty if you're used to the Dreamliner. They obviously in real world share a similar type rating, which helps. Look at that. Been waiting for this for a long time, haven't we? We bring it to a bit more of a sunset time. We get to see the cabin lighting that little bit better. And we can turn the dome lights up as well, just to show that general illumination around the entire flight deck environment. Dynamic lighting includes the seatbelt sign in the cabin as well, and some of these liveries have got their own in-flight entertainment screens based on the livery you choose, and they're all included in that PMDG Operations Centre, which is super neat. After takeoff, the service has commenced, so those curtains have now closed further up in business class to seclude the areas. Some of those little nice true-to-life features that they've put into the aircraft, which is really good. Performance, very, very good. Albeit, you know, I've got an RTX 4090 here, honoured to have such a powerful system. But its performance very similar to that of the 737, which is, to this date, for me, has been the best performing aircraft in the sim. Now, if we're flying on VATSIM with an air traffic controller that had Hoppies or ACARS capability, we would be able to get our clearance request via the flight information tab. Same with the oceanic request and all that sort of stuff as well. We'd be able to push that through the specific facility that we want it to. So this is quite easy to kind of work through anyway, and you'll get used to it just by clicking around and experimenting with it. But very impressive, all the way through to pushback requests and expected taxi routing requests as well. And again, those checklists are constantly working through and need a little bit of attention. So after takeoff, I've already automatically completed, and we'll have the descent checklist soon as well. So recall, notes checked, order brake settings, landing data, including the elevation, VREF minimums, and then the approach brief, which we'll need completing. Rightio, top of descent is fast upon us, and we've got everything in the aircraft all set up. We've fast forwarded a couple of our checklists, we've reset the MCP, ready for our descent, and we've set all of our nav data, minimums and all that sort of stuff as well. Overwhelmingly very impressed with this so far. Even little things like, you know, sitting in the cruise, and you'll notice, certainly in turbulent air, you'll notice the wings just bouncing around slightly on the tips. You can almost just about see it there, and the engines on the pylons kind of just dance around ever so slightly when it gets turbulent as well. So little features which actually improve the immersion, and they've done a really nice job of those. Here comes the VNAV path for the descent. Thrust idle. And we're moving now into the descent phase. Expecting the ILS runway 28 left into San Francisco. And as we mentioned at the start, we've got that wonderful Flightbeam Studios new San Francisco scenery installed. All the links for the various sceneries used today will be in the description. One of the newer features in the UFT is altitude profile. You can toggle that on and you can have a little look at the relevant phases of flight expected throughout the journey. And that's taking the Simbrief flight plan data basically and feeding it into there to show a bit of a cross section of what our descent profile might look like. It is auto land capable, and much like some of the other aircraft like the Dreamliner, you would leave auto throttle and autopilot in for one of those auto lands, and you would turn it off at the end once you've slowed down enough and you want to take manual control. You turn autopilot, auto throttle off, release the auto brake, and then take over control. Some of the other things to think about: they've simulated fuel density, brake dust build-up, so the more you use the brakes, the more wear and tear you get on them. They not only heat up, but you get a build-up of brake dust, which also needs sorting out. We've already seen the flexing of the engine pylons. The tailplane also flexes as well, and we've already discussed that really complex cabin lighting system that is simulated in the backdrop that we wouldn't notice necessarily that easily. But in any case, in preparation for landing with all the seatbelt signs on now and all the service complete, the cabin lights are now switched off. If we are flying it at night time, for example. Just in case you were wondering as well, gravity gear extension is a feature that you can do. So if you have a problem with the gear, for example, you can extend via the gravity release. When we find ourselves in a position where the aeroplane's a little bit slippier than we would like, we're going to get an FMC message warning, in which case we want to use the speed brake to help decelerate the aircraft. There's no flight detent click spot for this, but I would kind of try and just slowly extend into half, and then if you leave it out as the aircraft starts to counter the deceleration with power, you'll get that audible warning to tell you you've still got it extended, and that little status message. Golden Gate Bridge just down there, and the big old city of San Francisco ready for us. So the next bit's going to involve us vectoring to our final approach path, followed by the ILS approach and a landing. Don't forget, give us a little thumbs up if you're enjoying this big preview video. I'd like it short and sweet, but there's actually so many features to this that I'm sure you all want to see that it's ended up in a fairly lengthy video. But hopefully it's all been quite informative. We've allegedly got 10 statute miles visibility in San Francisco, but the weather's looking a little bit hazy this morning. Nothing we can't necessarily deal with, however. And it'll be a good test of the 777, or me in the 777 I should say. Warning of discontinuity there from the FMC message. And we'll just quickly check the overhead panel, make sure we're all happy with everything up there. That's looking pretty good. Shouldn't need the speed brake now, so I'm going to place that in the armed position. And we'll maintain 2 on 6 minimum clean. And we'll go down to 3,100 feet. We'll initiate our turn. Aircraft putting in the power to match the turn, and we move into the descent. It will match that accordingly as well. And approach mode is armed. Missed approach for this, climbed 4,000 outbound on the radial 275 to Olim. 4,000 for the hold. Landing gear, flaps 30. Okay, it's established at FAP 5 speed, which is 176. I'm going to turn 300 degrees just to smooth it off. So ideally you want to target flap 5 and the flaps 5 speed on the speed tape there to establish on the ILS, and that will give you a bit of a smoother turn. And we are 14 miles now. That's the aircraft establishing. And I'm going to get us set up nice and early. We've got the glide slope now as well, so I'm going to go gear down. It's going to give us a little bit of drag. And we'll set flap 15. Glide slope's alive. UF 135. Check. Set FAP 20. What an arrival this is. Flap 30. So with a couple of miles left now, everything's configured. Gear down, 3 green, or down locked, and 30 for the flaps. We're flying to our VREF +5, and all our missed approach stuff is set, ready to go. Coming up to 1,000 feet. I'm going to turn the auto throttle off just so I can feel the throttles myself. Naturally, you'd leave that on to touch down. And autopilot off. Clear the caution. Certainly hand flying a big aeroplane like this, you would expect a little bit of inertia. You know, if you roll the aeroplane left, for example, it's not going to immediately start the turn. Like you know, as quickly as it would in, for example, an A320. It feels heavy. That's one thing I have noticed. But it feels smooth. And we're higher up now. Certainly the aeroplanes I've been used to, the 737 is very low, so my reference might be a little off here.
Approaching minimums. Minimums.
Continue. Okay, I need my depth perception, so throwing the vision to the end of the runway now. Looking ahead.
50. 30. 20. 10.
Just holding the pitch. Letting that nose gently come down, all the brakes active, and we'll get the reversers out, reverse green. And there we go. Being higher up, it's going to feel slower. You know, the 737, for example, so low to the ground, we get that speed effect. Through 70 knots, let's get rid of the water brakes. All brakes disconnect. .264 foot per minute, not bad at all. Look, in the touchdown zone, looking pretty good. That's a landing widget for Parallel 42's Flow Pro, if you're wondering. And then we'll just bring the speed off to vacate here. So after landing, we'll get those flaps up, speed brakes retracted, we'll get the APU on. Landing lights off, runway turn off lights off, strobe lights off. Everything else set as required, so we can disarm. And then we can tidy the rest of the jet up. Mega impressed with this. The sounds I think are pretty good. Now how they turn out on the video might be slightly different to how I experience it at my own computer, because my sound card is going to be different to the bit rate that the video may have, for example, recorded in. Clear those. But mighty impressed with this. It's been a long time coming. We've all been waiting quite a long time for this 777 from PMDG, but I think they've smashed it right out the park. Textures, sounds, the feel of the aircraft, for me, feels pretty good, sounds pretty good, looks fantastic, and all round very, very enjoyable. All I've got left to do is to park up and shut her down. So thank you very much for watching, and keep your eye out over the week for more videos and live streams covering the PMDG 777-300ER coming very soon to Microsoft Flight Simulator. Hit like, hit subscribe before you head off, and thank you very much for watching. Take care.